you can hide all you want your emotions. You won't be able to hide from him. Why? Well, this guy, for the last 6 years, he studied the face muscles and how they correlate with emotional response and behavior. Yeah, should be. Basically, we're an open book to him. That might be a little intimidating, but somehow, today, he's willing to share his secrets with us here at TEDx Bucharest 2019. Please welcome Alexandru Bocunescu.
That on the screen is me. Me, when I was 20 years old, and now when I'm 40. I've changed. We all change, that is a fact. We change so much that in some cases we can't even recognize ourselves. Why do we change? Why do we go through this metamorphosis? There are some phase keys that are hidden in plain sight that can solve personality trait puzzles. Can you spot differences between me and my younger self? You can, that's the easy part. But can you spot what I've lived, what I like, how is most likely to behave, what are my passions? Not so easy. But you still can do that. And not only with me, but with anybody. We are all face readers since birth. I'm full of emotions right now. Do you ever have emotions? Of course, everybody has emotions. For quite a while, I asked myself what these emotions are. And eventually, I found out that they are just reactions of our bodies. They are the way our body is telling us that we live. And you probably heard about emotional intelligence, right? Daniel Goleman described it very well. The secret is that nobody is born intelligent. We gain this intelligence by emotional practice, and through this emotional practice we gain emotional growth. Nobody is born intelligent. You can see actually on someone's face how emotionally mature he or she is, and just by looking at the inner corners of that person's eyes. The lower the inner corners of someone's eyes come, the less mature that person is. That is because when we express emotions, we use a lot our facial muscles. You probably heard that eyes are like windows to our soul, or the gate to one's heart. We use a lot the muscles around our eyes, not only for receiving information, but also for giving information. We use them a lot in our non-verbal communication. So the more the inner corners are kept by the tension caused by the emotional express, that shows me that that person didn't have time to go through all his emotions, to process them, to integrate them, so he's less mature from that point of view. As we mature, the tension around these muscles disappear and our eyes start to become leveled. You may be wondering how this information can be of any help. Well, you can predict one's behavior based on how much emotional practice that person had. Because if he's immature from an emotional point of view, he will tend to be more reactive. He will be more emotionally triggered. The more mature that person is, the less reactive, the more controlled he will be. We will not expect a certain behavior from that person. You heard again about positive and negative emotions, right? There's no such thing. All emotions can be positive or negative. It is only up to us to give them that power. For instance, happiness is an emotion sought by many, but it's also an emotion in which, if we stay too long, we become euphoric and we can lose contact with our reality. Fear, on the other hand, is an emotion blamed, seen as negative. But remember, that fear is the emotion that is keeping us alive and kept us alive for billions and billions of years. From a biochemical point of view, an emotion in my body means an hormonal imbalance. When I have the so-called positive emotion, the happiness hormones in my body arises. And when I have a so-called negative emotions or less pleasant emotions, the level of stress hormones arises. These hormones, which we all have, are the words that our body uses to tell us things. Facial muscles are like all the other muscles in the human body. The more we use them, the stronger they become. The stronger they become, a bigger volume they will have. They can be linked to our personality traits puzzles, because nothing that happens on our face is by chance. We mold each muscle through hundreds and hundreds of micro-expressions. Whenever we have an emotion, we'll have immediately after an emotional adjustment mechanism. That can be goosebumps, that can be crying, laughing, cold shivers down the spine, palm sweating, but also facial expressions and micro-expressions. Micro-expressions for the facial muscles are what going to the gym is for the other body muscles, physical exercise. The more I display my emotions, the stronger my muscles will become. And they can be linked to my personality traits. No facial feature on its own will reveal a personality, but only a small fracture of someone's personality. How that person is using the muscle or the muscle group in order to display emotions and to behave. Have you ever looked in the mirror and see how different the two sides of your face are? How on the left side, for instance, the eyebrow sits lower, or one ear is big than the other, or on one side of the face, the lips are less full, or one cheek sits higher than the other. Have you ever wondered why that thing has happened? I assure you it's not due to the way we put the head on the pillow at night. So the facial muscles, again, are responsible for these differences. But they are controlled by those two hemispheres of our brain, which in fact are not that different one from the other. They tend to become different when they are influenced, when we are influenced by different factors. One become more active and send the stronger signals to our body when we are in an emotional stress situation. And the other one becomes more active when we are in a rational stress. What's emotional and rational depends on whatever we are doing. But when I'm talking about emotional, most of the time we understand stress provoked by our relationship, our family, our health, our passions, all those things that we value the most. And when I talk about rational stress, I mean stress provoked by our jobs, our social life. So whenever I am in an emotional stress, let's say, in all my non-verbal communication, I will keep my left side, which is my emotional part of the body and face, retracted. I will have the tendency to use more my right hand, to put my right foot in front, and to expose more of my right face, keeping the stress part retracted because I want to protect that part of my body. On the other hand, when I go through a rough time in my job life, in my rational life, I will retract the rational part of my body, finding my everyday balance in my emotional life. So I will use my left hand more, I will display emotions more strongly on my left side of the face. The more I balance between these two lives that I have, my emotional life and my rational life, the higher the level of facial asymmetry will be. That's why we don't have a perfectly balanced face, even though we look for it, because it's important when we are attracted to someone. We look unconsciously to that high facial asymmetry. In fact, nobody has a symmetrical face. You may be wondering again, why is this information relevant, or how can it help me? Well, it helps me in communication, because if I see a friend, if I see a colleague who is going through a rough period of emotional stress, let's say, his life and his family is not going so well, so he will retract his left part, his muscles on the left side of the face will be lowered, and I want to have a good communication with that person. I will keep the communication only on a rational base. I will talk about the weather, the president, anything that doesn't matter to that person, because I don't want to deepen the pain. On the other hand, if I see a colleague which has the rational part of the face lowered, it looks tired, I want to raise him from that suffering that he has. So I will talk about emotional subjects. I will ask him about his wife. I will ask him about his hobbies, his pet, and so on. The theory states that most of the emotions are displayed symmetrically on our face. In practice, we notice that things are not like that, because all the time we are in the rational stress or the emotional stress. We balance throughout our life between these two types of stress. Actually, in face reading, this is the first way to divide the face. Right will always be rational part of the face. We'll show how that the rational stress affects that person, and the left side of the face will be the emotional part of the face, showing how that person is affected by this type of stress. The second way in which we can divide the face in face reading is in facial levels. We have 3 levels, the upper part, middle, and lower part. Before going any further, I want you to understand that no personality trait is better than the other. We cannot judge, and through face reading, we tend to understand more what that person went through in order to form a personality trait like that. Nothing is good, nothing is bad when it comes to human personality. Okay, so regardless the race, regardless the point in the world in which we are born, regardless our nationality, we are all born with the same facial ratio, meaning that the upper part and the middle part have the same height, and the lower part is roughly half of any of those two. Up until we reach sexual maturity, or the puberty, the head bones are soft and can be easily molded by the tensions from the facial muscles. Up until this age, the personality trait that forms our personality engine are forming. After that, we can become either a mental person, a practical person, or a lustful person. Nothing that happens on a face is by chance. Everything is molded through thousands and thousands of muscle movements. What does it mean to be a mental person? It means to be a person who will solve the everyday problems using the least energy consumption possible. A practical person means a person of the here and now who will solve everyday problems, not thinking too much about it, but by putting his hands on. And the lustful person will be a person who will seek to fulfill his pleasures, his passions, a more sensitive person, if you like. Okay, again, you may be wondering how this information can be of any help. I have these 3 people in front of me, and how can it help me? Well, it helps again in communication. And let's say we work in sales. And as a matter of fact, we are all marketers, even if we are aware of it or not. Even when we go to a job interview, we try to sell ourselves. Let's say, for the sake of an argument, that we work in sales. We want to sell a car. Would you sell your car to these three clients in the same way? No. They will not be interested in what you have to say unless you speak their personality language. We have to sell the same car in three different ways. To the first client, we will sell the car mentioning the design, the company values and standards. We will mention the low impact on the environment. He will not be impressed by brands. We have to give space and time to a client like that in order to allow him to process the information through all his mental filters. He will not rush into buying. To the second type of the client, the mental person, and by the way, 3/4 of all human beings are in this category, we have to sell the car mentioning the utility of the vehicle, the cost of the maintenance, how easy his life will be once he bought that car. We have to mention the space luggage. We will mention details that this guy will use in his everyday life in order to solve his tiny problems. To the third type of the client, we'll sell the car by mentioning the big rims, the leather seats, the audio system. Brands are very important to this type of client. We have to talk about the gadgets of the car, even though he will not understand at first what those gadgets are used for. We can mention feelings too to this type of client. We can talk about the envy and the jealousy that everybody will feel once he is seen driving his new car. Not everybody is interested in what I have to say or anybody else has to say unless we speak on their personality language. Each muscle, each feature is molded in time, and nothing that happens on the face is by chance. Each face tells a story. Everything that is on anybody's face is telling a story, is showing how that person will behave in a certain moment. We are all face readers since birth. Let's use face reading in order to become better versions of ourselves. Face reading is a method that enhances communication with your partner. Not everybody is the same. Not everybody wants to receive attention in the way we do. And we have the tendency to give attention, to talk to others in the way we like to do it. Surprise. Our partner is a different person. Face reading enhances your communication with your friends, communication with your colleagues. You heard about the battle between generations. There is no battle. It's only a communication problem. We don't talk the language of our parents, and our kids will not talk our language, because from a social point of view and a technological point of view, we evolve much faster than we do from the emotional point of view or muscular point of view. Face reading enhances your communication when it comes to your clients or in your company between departments. Face reading is also a tool when it comes to self-knowing. Society teaches us how to lie, how to build a different reality. There is one part in us that we cannot lie to, and that's our subconscious mind. And luckily for us, our subconscious mind is responsible for more than 90% of the volume of our facial muscles. It's not what I want to show with my face that it will affect my face shape, but it's how I feel, how I react, are those tiny micro expressions that I do again and again and again and for long periods of time. My journey when it comes to face reading started more than 6 years ago, but 4 months is an average period in which anybody can learn how to read faces. I mean, if I could do it, anybody can do it. Most of the time I am asked, what's stopping me to go on the dark side, to benefit from others by using face reading? And the answer to that question is morals. We can buy a knife from a lot of stores, but that doesn't mean that we are going to stab somebody with it. Face reading proposes and offers a level of understanding that no communication method offers. When you use face reading, we can have less conflict, more understanding, more cooperation. Face reading not only that makes you more adaptable to our ever-changing social life, but makes you so much better on a personal level. Thank you.